Hi folks, welcome to a special edition of Roske on Politics. You're watching this on his website, the Iowa Starting Line. This is Pat RYNARD. Tell folks about Iowa Starting Line.
Yeah, so Brent, Iowa Starting Line's been around for coming on the end of 4 years now. It's been a long and fun experience. Started up.
Seems hard to believe.
I know. Started up during the 2015, during the Iowa caucus then, covering Iowa politics from the perspective of a former campaign staffer. So kind of peeling back some of the behind-the-scenes type things that happen.
Yeah, so we're here for our 6th annual Progress Iowa Holiday Party. We are thrilled about the lineup that we have. We have the entire Democratic or newly elected Democratic delegation that Iowa is sending to Congress with Dave Loebsack, Cindy Axne, Abby Finkenauer, and we have some great national speakers too. Senator Jeff Merkeley, businessman and announced presidential candidate Andrew Yang, Congressman Eric Swalwell, and Mayor Pete Buttigieg from South Bend, Indiana. So we have a great lineup and should have a really fun night.
So candidates and potential candidates are now starting to come to the state. If you were going to give people some strategy, some advice about participating in the Iowa caucuses, what would you say?
I would say meet people where they're at. Make sure that you get out and talk with as many folks as you can. We held 150 meet and greets in the primary and the general. That's on top of party events. So that was going into people's homes and saying, please invite your friends and neighbors in. Independents, Democrats, Republicans, bring them all, because I want to talk with all of them and listen to what they have to say, so I'm ready to hit the ground running. I'd encourage anybody to do that, to make sure that they're accessible, that they meet people where they're at.
And finally, what are the issues that you're going to be going to Washington with and passionately fighting for?
Oh, well, so many. But first and foremost, right out of the gate, we've got to protect people with pre-existing conditions. That's under fire right now, and so that's a key priority. Secondly, we want to pass an infrastructure bill. It's a great baseline for economic growth. So those would be two things right out of the gate to work on. And as a matter of fact, we're already working on House Resolution 1, which will put accountability, transparency back in government, and hopefully let people come back to a point where they trust government to do what's right for them.
When people come up and speak to you, what are the issues that are really resonating with Iowans?
Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm hearing so much about the impact on the state of the president's chaotic trade policies and how that's reverberating a lot of fear, a lot of, we're past the harvest season now, a lot of people not selling their crops, worried if they did sell them that they aren't going to get that bonus money. And just really the core issue of where is America going? And by that I mean the fact that it's so much harder now for working families with the cost of housing going up, healthcare being chaotic and stressful. We've got the challenge of the cost of education. It shouldn't be this hard to be an ordinary working person in America, but it's harder now than 4 decades ago.
So you came all the way from Oregon to speak to us tonight. We're very grateful. But what is the sense, the idea of the Iowa caucuses, say in Oregon? What do people think about what we do here?
Well, Oregon has a very late primary,
yeah, sure.
And so there's an enormous amount of jealousy to always watch Iowa out front, playing that critical role of winnowing down a field of sometimes a couple dozen people down to 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And so I know people here take it so seriously, and that's by the time you get to our primary in May, it's like a whole different world.
So I'm running for president to help us accelerate our economy and our society through what is, again, the greatest economic and technological transformation in our history.
So you have been to Iowa, as you just mentioned several times. You are participating in Iowa caucus presidential politics. What have you learned so far?
What I've learned is that Iowans are filled with common sense. They care about their country and the course of our future. I'm a parent. I've got 2 young kids, so that's why I care about the future. But I love being here because common sense is in short supply in D.C. and in other parts of the country. And you come to Iowa, you tell the truth, you talk sense, and then people want to meet you as a human being. They want to interact with you and trust you as a leader.
A lot of folks say that they're going to run for office. A lot of folks say, you know what, heck, I'm going to run for president. You're actually doing it. Was there a moment where you said, you know what, this is it, I can't sit by and watch anymore?
Well, it was in the aftermath of Donald Trump winning the election, where I was shocked like many other Americans, but then I dug into the numbers and I saw that there's a straight line up between the adoption of industrial robots in a voting district and the movement to Trump. This is a technology story.
Wow.
And when I went to the folks in D.C. and said, guys, this is a technology story, it was like I was speaking another language. And it was at that point that I said, I'm going to have to take this message directly to the American people, and the best way to do that is to run for president.
Were you surprised the last caucuses at how close the Sanders-Clinton race was for the Iowa caucuses?
Yes, I was very surprised. Honestly, I thought Hillary would walk away with it, but Bernie gave her a good fight.
Why do you think it was so close?
I think Bernie just did a really good job of churning out people,
Yeah.
and young people. So when I walked into the high school gym that I was in and saw a big crowd of young people, I knew that he had a really good chance.
You are now an Iowa state senator. You're going to be a very popular person. What type of candidate are you looking for to possibly endorse down the road?
I am not going to endorse a candidate.
Oh, why is that?
Because I have seen that go very badly
Yeah.
for a few people
Yes.
over the last year. So I'm just not going to do it. You know what, though? That'll make me more popular because everyone will want to come to my events and help me raise money for the Senate Democrats, and, I'll just play the field a little bit.
So just a couple days ago, it was announced that you are not running for re-election of South Bend mayor. You were re-elected with 80% of the vote. That is a big job to turn away from. What are you doing?
Well, it is a great job. I'm going into my 8th year. I love my community. I love my job. But it was time to move on, turn the page, and give somebody else a chance. And now, obviously, we're thinking about the future. So I really enjoyed the chance to get to know people in Iowa. I hope to continue doing that. And I think by next month, we'll have a good feel for my own direction going forward.
So you have been to Iowa before. What number is this trip now for you?
Gosh, 3, 4 maybe. We had a great summer event with Progress Iowa here at their corn feed. Did a talk with the Atlantic Summit on growth in the heartland, economic development, and then during the campaign season, I was helping Dave Loebsack in an event of his. So that's out in Iowa City, a little closer to us, there in South Bend. But every time we come, people are wonderful. It's really friendly and familiar state, and so I hope to keep coming back.
So you've decided to participate in the caucus process. You're at one of the early events. What have you learned about this, and what is the feeling about the Iowa caucuses outside of the state?
Well, what's so interesting about the Iowa caucuses is it's unique and it's different, and it really favors relationships. You can't, I think, do well in that model with just an air war. You have to get to know people, and that's the style of politics I'm accustomed to as a mayor. It's in many ways very similar. It doesn't matter how slick your ads are if you can't relate to people, or perhaps most importantly, listen to people and understand where they are. And my sense is that that same style of politics is taken very seriously here in Iowa. So I look forward to getting to know that practice better.
You are with one of the candidates who has an exploratory committee out right now, best-selling author and speaker Marianne Williamson. How did you come to be a part of that group?
Actually, I work for a nonprofit organization run by Representative Abdul Samad called Creative Visions, and she came to speak at Creative Visions. And when I saw her and heard her message, it was a message of love and unity and healing and hope, and so it just drew me in. She's been talking to people for 35 years about healing and being loving and being more kind and spreading that forward to fellow man. So she's just taking that message that she's been spreading, and now she's trying to incorporate it into politics where it should be, because politics is about the people.
You represent California. What does California and Iowa politics have in common?
Well, me, I was born in Iowa, now represent a district in California.
Where were you born in Iowa?
Yeah, in Sac City.
Oh, sure.
And that's where I learned that people expect if you work hard, you do better for yourself, dream bigger for your kids. And that's true in Iowa as much as it's true in the San Francisco Bay Area.
When you're meeting with Iowans, what are the issues that they're talking to you about, saying they're concerned about?
It's healthcare. That is probably the number one issue I hear about. And I saw that with J.D. Schulten going across the state, seeing that for so many people their healthcare plan was a candy jar that was hollowed out and had a picture of somebody and their healthcare condition, and that's just wrong. We can do better as a country if we invested in cures, if we had universal healthcare, and just finally got out of this rut of incrementalism on healthcare and went big. And I represent a generation that wants to do big things, and I think on healthcare, on energy, we can go big. Gun violence, I just held a town hall today with Cameron Caskey, a Parkland survivor at Franklin Junior High School in Des Moines. That issue is more important to people than I think we talk about. It's always been kind of a second-tier issue for Democrats, particularly presidential candidates, but it's a top-of-mind issue, especially if you have a kid in school and you're worried about whether they're going to come home every day.
And finally, when you told people back in California that you're coming to Iowa, you're going to talk to some folks, maybe with some thoughts on a higher office, what have you learned about the caucuses, or what has maybe surprised you about this process?
Yeah, well, what I've learned is you can't, talk to Iowans, through a television screen. So people have a lot of money and they'll try and do that. I think, and I've learned that you talk to them at their doorstep, you talk to them at their church, you talk to them at their diners, and you learn from them. I think I can show them that I am for them because I am one of them, and I think that is very important.
Folks, so that's it for us at the Progress Iowa 6th Annual Holiday Party. Was happy to speak to all the candidates. This is just one of the early events on the caucus calendar, and I will be participating in all of them. So thank you so much for tuning in at Roske on Politics here at the Iowa starting line. We hope to see you again next time.